What is going on YouTube? But Great Blades here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Civivi Baklash. Let's start with an overall measurement. Overall size here looking at about 8 inches, about 8.1 inches, just a hair over 8. Blade length looking at about 3.6, and then overall cutting edge looking at just about 3.1, 3.2 maybe. Measured the blade stock thickness here. So blade stock thickness on this one about 110 thousandths, pretty solid. And then we'll measure the weight here. Weight on the Civivi Baklash. Looking at about just under 4 ounces, 3.95 ounces. Not terrible, not fantastic, but not heavy, I would say. Do a size comparison here with the Civivi, the Demco 80-20.5 with original goat scales on them, linked down below, and then the QSP Penguin. So size here, it's going to be bigger than both of them. We are at a bit of an angle, so it's a little bit more dramatic than it looks like, but than it actually is, I should say. But it is bigger than both of them. It is, I would classify, a full-size knife, bigger than the 20.5 here by a good amount, and then even more so by compared to the QSP Penguin here. Do a measurement on the, or a comparison on the sort of carry profile and thickness here. So compared to the 20.5, it is thinner than the 20.5 by just a little bit there. And then compared to the QSP Penguin, it is maybe just about the same, actually. The QSP Penguin has flat scales. These scales are flat as well, with a little bit of contoured on the edges, or chamfering on the edges there, I should say. But about the same, and it's not too bad in terms of thickness. It's going to be thicker than the Penguin, but just about the same as the 20.5. So this one is the G10 and carbon fiber sort of laminate that Civivi and a lot of other budget brands tend to do. I'm not a huge fan of that. Give me all G10 and charge me less, or give me actual solid carbon fiber, for a little bit more. That's fine. But that's what they did. That's okay. So this one is, I should say, is a little bit different. You might look at this, and if you're familiar with the Baklash, you might look at this and say, well, this seems a little different than I remember. Something about this is different. And you'd be right. So this one is actually blade swapped. The Damascus one came, I think, with just black G10, I want to say. And then the carbon fiber G10 laminate was just a stone wash, I believe. I'll put a picture up of both of those, but it was just blade swapped. Because it looks better that way, I think, anyways. But this one is their Damascus. This is, again, a 9CR, 10CR combo, but it is their more polished version that they do sometimes, compared to something like the Badlands Vagabond, where you got the sort of real dark, I don't know if it'll pick this up nicely, the real dark contrast versus the really shiny, polished look on the Damascus there. But I do like both, but I think if I had to pick one, I would probably pick the real shiny, high polished Damascus. I think it just looks a little bit better, personally, but that's up to you. I guess you would call this a sort of modified drop point of some sort. It's not quite a harpoon notch here, but something like that, we'll call it. And this one is hollow ground, so it does come down to a pretty thin, slicey edge, which is nice. It is made by Civivi, so this is made in China. This one I don't think is terribly expensive. It's hard to say exactly since this is a blade swapped one, but standard it's about $90 or so for the Damascus blade, which is the variant that would be the most expensive. But of course, two of them had to have been bought in order to blade swap them. So, but in general, the Damascus one is the most expensive. That's going to be about $90. It is steel liners with a G10 backspacer here, steel clip, just a folded over stamp steel clip. It's fine. Retention's decent on this one. Again, two-handed into your pocket. It is left and right carryable. It is going to be only tip up carry, if that bothers you. This one also does have a lanyard hole, which, I guess if that's something you're interested in. I don't ever put lanyards on my knives, but if you do, they have one there. The clip is prioritized though over it, which I think is how it should be. That way you can get a nice, sort of deeper carry. The clip probably could be a little bit shorter. It is about half, maybe 60% the length of the knife. Could be a little bit shorter, I think, but that's just maybe my personal preference here, but it's not too bad. This one is just a flipper only, no thumb studs in this one, so nothing will get in your cutting path there. There's a large forward finger choil, so you can get all the way up here, and there is that sort of very meaningful jimping all the way up to where your thumb would naturally rest here if you were using that forward finger choil, which is nice as well, a little bit more control, which is appreciated. Ergonomically speaking, it's going to be pretty comfortable. I mean, it is pretty much just a couple of swoops and a straight line, so it's nothing too crazy. It's not going to lock you in or anything like that. In terms of, like, you have to put your fingers here. You can move a little bit up and down, whatever you find comfortable, but it's not too bad. And you don't really feel that clip, maybe just a teeny tiny bit right about here for me, but it's not that bad. I don't think it would impact me using this knife for a prolonged period of time. It is just a standard liner lock, but it works pretty good. Action's pretty nice. It is just a flipper only, so there's no thumb studs to flick here, but in terms of the opening and close action, it's pretty good. Solid, centered centered blade here. Lockup solid. No blade play up, down, left, or right. No pivot lash, nothing like that. So, pretty solid on this one. So this one I actually didn't purchase. So this one I won in a giveaway. Let's see, 2021, perhaps, right around there. If any of you guys follow Metal Complex, you probably know about one of his friends that sends some really crazy knives. Scott, or Sierra_bound on Instagram. I'll link his account down below, but I've followed him for quite a long time. At this point, I've followed him for quite a long time. But, he would send MC some pretty crazy stuff, and I'm like, wow, I want to take a look at his collection. And so, MC was always talking about that, so I went over to his Instagram, gave him a follow, and then every now and then he'll do giveaways, on his Instagram account. He'll reach certain milestones Usually about every 100 or so followers, he'll do a giveaway of some kind, or had at the time. And usually he would do it a little bit differently as well. So like he would kind of make it a game of some sort, so like he would post like a close-up picture of a knife, and you would have to guess like the maker and like what the model is and things like that. That way it's not just based off who can comment the fastest, but also who knows the correct answer. So he would go off of things like that, make it a little bit more intriguing, on who's going to win. So he had posted, I don't even remember at this point, but he had posted some knife, and I was like, oh, it's, so and so maker, and this is the model, and blah 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 blah. So I was one of the first people to comment that, and so then he has like a list. The first person who got it, they would get picked. If they don't respond in like a certain amount of time, it would go to the seconds, thirds, etc. And then usually he'll do like tiers of giveaways as well, so he would usually do multiple knives, things like that. But yeah, so I had one, and this was the knife that I got. So it's, nothing too crazy, but a free knife is a free knife, and especially back then in 2021 or so, I was still very new to collecting knives, so any knife was a good knife to me. And I do still like it, though. And yeah, so he had just blade swapped it, basically, from the Damascus version to the one with the carbon fiber G10 laminate handles, which I just think is a better look as well. Yeah, and I actually did win another giveaway from him. I don't have that knife anymore, but I had one a second time, and I won the Mass Drop like Ferrum Forge Crux. I'll put an image on the screen there. I don't have that knife anymore, unfortunately, but I did win that one. And then after that, I was like, I'll give other people a chance to win. 2 times seems a little much, personally. So I said, hey, let other people enter, and win knives. So after that, I haven't entered anymore. So I haven't won anything else. But, 2 times is enough. That's okay. But yeah, this one, nothing too crazy about this one. I like the blade shape. I think it looks cool. The Damascus, I think, is definitely a nice touch to it. The liner, the lock here is raised a little bit above the actual scales here, so it's not quite scalloped, but it is a little bit taller, so that way it's easier to disengage the lock, which is nice. It is also jimped for a little bit of texture there, just to give you some grip to also disengage it, if you're wearing gloves or something like that. And then what else was I going to say here? These are discontinued. I think these actually came out in like 2018 or 2019 originally. I think the plain blades were like 9CR as well. Nothing too crazy, just plain 9CR instead of the 9CR 10CR Damascus combo we got here. Those ones are a little bit cheaper, again, probably 40 or 50 bucks or so. I've also owned this knife previously. Before that, I had a 9CR just plain satin, and I think I had the ebony wood one, I want to say. But I gave that away to a friend of mine a couple years ago now. But it is a good knife, and I've kept this one just because it's a little bit of a more special one in terms of the aesthetics, and also just, more the story behind it, I would say. But yeah, I think that's going to be pretty much it. This one's pretty straightforward. Nothing too crazy about it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below telling me what you think about the Civivi Baklash. I kind of wish they'd make a more premium version of this. I don't know that they ever did. I think it would be cool if we, which is also, the same company as Civivi, just their more high-end stuff, if they made a more premium version of some of their older Civivi knives, I think that'd be really cool. I think people would like that a lot, more premium materials and more premium blade steel, different clip. I think people would really like that. I think that would be fantastic. But let me know what you guys think down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.